Welcome back to another Saxton podcast. A sunny Wednesday. We are through Snowmageddon. You back up and running down there, Deuce?
Snowzilla, Snowmageddon. It came with a big old uppercut to this area, but things are getting back to normal finally for us. What about you guys up there?
Yeah, life goes on. I'm seeing grass in a lot of spots. Looks like the storm predicted for this weekend's gonna miss us, so spring could be here sooner than expected.
Yeah, I sure hope. Keegan came into the world and got punched in the face. He's got some adversity right in the way.
Well, that's what I wanted. I didn't want the pussification of America to get to him early.
No 70-degree days for him in February.
No, and hopefully we can elicit some warm thoughts with the golf preview coming up later in the podcast.
I know. I'm a little bit nervous that we're going to jinx it. Now winter's going to go into April with this podcast.
Well, let's start with the conference championships. One good game and one impressive performance in the second game. Give me your thoughts on the AFC.
It was a really good game. I know we both went back and forth on who we thought would win and why, and how it was kind of a coin flip game. And in the end, I think that Broncos pass rush just won the game, dominated the game. Tom Brady and Gronkowski obviously tried to pull a magic trick out there in the last minute with some incredible plays, but Brady just got his head caved in, and that was the difference.
I don't think I've ever seen him take a beating. Obviously, the numbers point to it, but it wasn't just the number of hits. It was the hits that he took. There were a couple times I wasn't sure he was getting up.
No, I wouldn't be shocked if there was some news that came out that he had some sort of injury or something. And I'm guessing if there was a game this week, he'd be questionable with bruised ribs or something like that.
Did that speak more towards the quality of Denver's defense or the lack of weapons and lack of protection New England has?
That's a good question. I think it's a little of both because I know me and you texted a few times. If New England had that speed guy, that Deion Lewis, or even the old Randy Moss, I think that's how you beat that pass rush, especially the Deion Lewis. If you don't have any threats out of the backfield or you have no threat of running the ball, those DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, they literally just set up in a three-point stance and were sprinting to Tom Brady with no threat of stopping the run. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, we talked about it in the podcast last week that the key was the guy out of the backfield, and White was open numerous times, but he looked like he never ran a route of football in his life.
Looks like he's never played football before. He had a chance to make a couple plays, especially early in the game, that I think could have changed the outcome of at least the last 5 minutes of the game. I think the Patriots could have been leading instead of trying to come from behind. But yeah, he really looked terrible and let Brady down a couple times.
Two questions for you. One big picture, one in the microcosm of the game, which I'll start with. I've heard a couple people say that Belichick should have kicked the field goal with about 5-6 minutes left when it was 20-12. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's more of a hindsight complaint. In the moment, I actually thought it was the right decision to go for it. So I think a lot of it's 50-50 call. I think you got to be aggressive there with Brady. I don't know. I don't think that played as much of a role. I think the extra point missed in the first half was a little bit bigger than I thought it would be, but still, they had what they wanted on that 2-point conversion, so I'm not sure how you could.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree. I'm not sure why. Looking back on it and in the moment, New England was not moving the ball whatsoever. So
exactly.
If you kick the field goal and make it 20-15, you still got to drive for a touchdown again.
Yeah. I think the critics are kind of making it seem like if they had kicked that field goal, then they make it a one-possession field goal game, which wasn't the case. So I'm not really sure why it's such a big deal.
Yeah, most likely they get the ball back with 20-15 because Denver's offense wasn't doing anything either, but
no.
You still had to drive the field.
Right. Yeah, and I think people forget that New England's offensive line had been a patchwork all year long. I thought they played better than they should have the last 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. You know, they lost their best offensive lineman, Nate Solder, early in the year to a biceps injury. So, yeah, I think it's just all the injuries kind of just took their toll eventually.
Yeah, I think also is I believe it was 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11 the play before. And I think it was Amendola. It was either Amendola or Edelman made an unbelievable play to almost get the first down on that 3rd down and set up the 4th and 1.
Amendola, yep, you're right.
Maybe he kicks the field goal at 4th and 5 or 4th and 6 where he should have been tackled.
Yep.
But at 4th and 1 without moving the ball, I thought he made the right call. Maybe not the best play call, but I got to give Denver credit for stopping the 4th and 1.
Yeah, it was a great play by Denver's defense. I think you hit it on the head. I think you can question the play call a little bit more than the actual call to go for it. I mean, 4th and 1, your whole playbook's open, so I liked it.
And my big picture question for you, how big did the loss to Miami in Week 17 loom for the Patriots without being able to clinch home field?
Yeah, it looks pretty big now, right? They don't lose at home, typically. Especially the way that game kind of went with the pass rush being so dominant, you got to think the crowd feeds into that a little bit. So I think it's a big deal now, looking back.
Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts from you on that game?
Just more of a long-term Patriots look. I think Belichick likes to draft defensive players, but I think with Brady's age and having some of the young, good pieces they do have on defense with Collins and Butler and McCourty, even Logan Ryan played pretty well this year. I think they got to get him some weapons or beef up that offensive line and make a run with the current defense the next 2 years.
I think we say it every week before getting off this game, but watching Gronkowski do what he did against a pretty good defense, it's just jaw-dropping what he does.
It's unbelievable. That catch he made in the back of the end zone, how he stayed in bounds, I have no idea. To be that big and that nimble is unbelievable.
And I think you hit it right on the head with the perfect analogy. There was a play where he was probably held in the end zone, and they didn't call it when he was triple teamed. And it's tough to get a call being triple teamed, but he certainly doesn't get calls because he's so big. And you compared it to Shaq.
Rules,
yeah,
exactly. It's like you said, he's not going to get that call. I get it. He can't really make that call, but it's because he's so big that he's kind of unfairly treated.
Yeah, agree.
One more thing from this game, and this is 5, 6, 7 years ago, I wouldn't have never done this, but credit to Wade Phillips because they didn't blitz at all, and they got a ton of pressure, so that helps. But he had some great coverages in the middle of the field to stop Edelman most of the game.
I agree completely. There were times when Brady had time in the pocket, stepped up and gave himself extra time on other plays, and the coverage was there.
Yes. Yep. So good job by Wade Phillips.
And Peyton Manning did a good job at this point in his career. He's probably more of a game manager, but he didn't make mistakes that I thought he may have.
Actually, looked pretty good. There was probably 1 or 2 balls that should have been picked, but they weren't bad throws. They were just good plays by Malcolm Butler. But I thought he actually looked okay. I mean, Demarius Thomas freaking drops the ball every other time I'm watching him. So
yeah, there were some throws that Peyton made that he did show some arm strength again.
Yeah, I thought it looked okay.
Switching gears, I text you after the game or almost when it was over. Took me 20 weeks, but I can admit Carolina is very good.
Yeah, that was impressive. They played a team that could have exposed them, especially defensively, but didn't happen at all.
No, and last week in the podcast, I remember saying that the play is to double Greg Olsen, and I thought Arizona did a pretty good job of taking him away, but it's tough to double with the speed they have on the outside.
Yeah, I think Olsen still had 6 catches for 95 or 105 yards, so he still got his. And it almost seems like he gets a lot of his plays when Cam just takes that extra second or 2 seconds to get away from a guy. and all of a sudden Olsen pops open. He's very underrated, I think, across the league as a tight end.
When Kelvin Benjamin went down, I don't think anybody saw this coming. And I certainly didn't think I'd be saying this. But their offense is really hard to stop.
Yeah, I don't know why, though. It's weird. I think their offensive line is very good. They obviously can run the ball. Their receivers aren't very good, but somehow, I don't know if it's Cam making the right play almost every time or the right read or what, but they're making it work. I don't know how you don't stop Philly Brown and Ted Ginn, but no one seems to be able to.
Yeah, watching the game, I said to myself, well, you can't play nickel on them because they're so physical. They'll give it to Stewart and Tolbert and run 5-6 yards every time. And you can't really stack the box to stop the run because Cam can make plays with his legs, and you have the speed on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, the receivers aren't who I would want, but you're right. They do have speed, which I think that really separates a team, a defense from being able to stop like the Patriots who don't have speed, and a team like Carolina, it's much harder to stop.
Did you get the sense, or do you get the sense that that's as close as Arizona's going to get with the current roster they have?
No, I don't. I think the glaring loss for them in that game was the Honey Badger. I think if he plays, that game's totally different.
Despite Carson Palmer's struggles?
I mean, we've been on the Palmer hate wagon for a long time, so I don't think he's a guy that can win a Super Bowl, but their offense has some talent. I really like David Johnson. I thought that's how you beat Carolina, was him out of the backfield, and he did have a really nice game, albeit a lot of it was garbage time. But I think they have enough talent to carry Palmer to maybe an NFC Championship game again and maybe not get blown out depending on the opponent. I don't know. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl, but I think their team is okay for the next 2 or 3 years.
Carolina, I thought that their defense was good, but I thought Arians would come up with something to at least expose a weakness. I know Palmer didn't play great, but there didn't seem to be anything that Arians hung his hat on and said, this is what we're going to do, stop it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really sure what the game plan was. And I don't know if that was dictated by getting down early and the early turnovers or what, but it didn't seem like he had much of a chance, really, to call what he wanted to. I don't know what his game plan would have been. I would have guessed the 4 wide and attack deep, but I don't even know if they got a chance to do that.
How fun and how good is Luke Kuechly?
He's everywhere. I mean, it's his ability to cover sideline to sideline and sniff out a running play at the same time is unbelievable.
He looked like a cornerback making a break on that interception.
I know. He's got the speed of a lot of safeties, and he's 265 pounds or whatever he is.
I'm not taking anything away from him at all because I think he's one of, if not the best defensive player in the game. But those 2 defensive tackles they have that just keep guys off them don't get enough credit either.
It's a big deal. That kid's short is unbelievable.
Yes.
He just eats space and can rush the passer, which is very rare.
I don't want to get too deep into it because we'll do a Super Bowl preview next week, but early lean? Obviously, we'll leave it open that we can change.
What's that?
We'll leave it open that we can change our mind next week, but just early thoughts?
My gut early thought was I like Carolina just based on matchups. My one hesitation is that this is the best defense that Carolina will face. I think I saw a stat that they've faced 8 or 9 defenses ranked in the bottom 10 of scoring defense. So they've played a lot of teams that give up a lot of points. But I think Denver is more built to attack a team like New England that loves to throw the ball. Not sure how well they're built to stop the physical downhill approach that Carolina is going to take. So my early lean was Carolina. I know the money's going the other way, which is worrisome, but just matchups, I like Carolina.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I think it's going to be really fun to watch Carolina's offense against Denver's defense. And I'm not really sure how Denver moves the ball.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next. We always try to pick out one specific unit or key to every game. I really don't know how Denver stops the pressure up the middle from Carolina. Maybe they shove everyone to the middle and they try to bait Carolina into rushing from the outside, because I'm not sure who would do that for Carolina. They don't really have a speed guy, but I worry about Peyton Manning dying in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you think that he's going to have to win the game with his arm, and I just don't know how that happens.
I will say they do have some matchup issues if they can protect him.
Yes.
I'm assuming Norman they'll play a standard zone with Norman on Demaryius Thomas's side of the field, but I like Emmanuel Sanders in this game.
I agree.
Time to throw.
I agree.
So, I mean, there are some issues. I think it'll be a close game just because both defenses are really good. So.
Well, moving on to something that was brought to us by a loyal listener. We invited him on the show, but much like Donald Trump skipping the Thursday debate, he decided to skip the show.
Yeah, we're not big time enough for him to make the guest appearance yet, I don't think.
And it's only fitting that his name is Davy Trump. Here's the scenario. We'll get your thoughts. Back in November, he did a 3-team parlay and won $125. He then let that ride, and he has won the first 2 legs of it. He took the NFC in the Super Bowl minus 2.5 as the last leg of the parlay. So if he wins $600. Does he let it ride, or does he take Denver and hedge, or he could also go the route of Denver plus 4.5, try to middle it?
I think the 2 options are in play. This is a great question too. The 2 options that I think you have to consider are the hedge with Denver 4.5, guaranteeing yourself $275 or whatever it is. I mean, that's not a tiny chunk of change. Maybe for Davy Trump it is, but that pays for a couple rounds of golf and a couple drinks. But the 2.5 is pretty. I think that's the big wild card here, is that you're getting the Panthers to let it all ride, only 2.5.
Yeah, I think that line that he got is fantastic. I think the middle is the play, to try and get Denver at 4.5. And you look at the games that are played in the NFL, 3, 4, 7, and 10 are probably the margins of victory.
Yeah, key numbers.
I think you have a good shot at 3 and 4, especially where the Vegas line is, and especially with most people thinking this is going to be a lower scoring game.
Any fear that Carolina, they do have a propensity when they win, they like to win big. Any fear with that?
I do think Carolina is the better team, but the way that all the Joe Public's jumping on Carolina, as you alluded to earlier with the money,
yeah, I
have reservations about the favorite in a Super Bowl or similar to the national championship. Clemson backdoors it.
Yeah.
My advice, what I would do is try to middle it.
I think that's the way to go if you're playing this thing smart.
You're guaranteed to walk away with
pockets. I think I'd let it ride because I like the minus 2.5. He's not going to hurt him if he loses it.
Yeah, I like the middle because
is probably the prudent play here.
You're guaranteed money. You're guaranteed to walk away with money, and if you land on those 2 key numbers, 3 or 4, if you could get the 4.5, well, now you hit it big.
Right. Yeah. If Carolina wins by a field goal,
you're almost $1,000.
He's walking away the big winner. So you're probably right. That's the way to play it. I think you're minimizing most of the risk if you do that. And NFL playoffs this deep, and especially the Super Bowl, it's very hard to do that.
Weird things happen in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's got some young guys. They might come out really tight. You never know.
Yeah. My advice is middle.
Yeah, and you're getting, it's not like Rivera's been in a ton of positions like this. So I would agree, I think.
Yeah.
think you've talked me into it. I was going to lean let it ride, but I think you talked me into
Well,
the
I
bar,
think
but
I think those are the two plays. I don't think you try and hedge it with Denver at 3.5 or 4. If you get the 4.5, I think you try for the middle.
yes. 3.5 I don't want any part of, because then you're just waiting for one key number, and that's 3.
Yeah.
That's, your chances of doing that are pretty slim.
Yeah, I agree. So I think in order it would go middle, let it ride, hedge.
Agree.
Well, we'll find out and let the listeners know. Now to the point of the podcast, your specialty. Your writing can be found at golfmana.com, E Squared Golf on Twitter, the PGA Preview for 2016.
Yeah, it almost feels like the season is starting tomorrow with the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. Good field, 12 of the top 30. We have an article preview posted up on Golf Mana this week, the first one of the year. So
Well,
like we're starting to start.
Why don't we just hop right into that? You give us your predictions and guys to watch for this weekend.
This weekend specifically, we did a power rankings, and we did a couple guys we like, we don't like. I have Brant Snedeker at the top. He's won here before. He has a couple runner-ups at this event. He really, really likes the West Coast, mainly because of the Poana greens. They're slow, they get bumpy, and he's on the record many times saying that his pop stroke is far more effective on these types of greens than back here on the East Coast. So I have Sneds as the winner this week, number 1. A couple other guys, Bill Haas, Jimmy Walker, good records here. And a wild card this week, I think, is Lefty. He had a good showing last week in the desert, tied for third. He's from San Diego, as everyone knows. He's won this event a few times. He hasn't had much success here lately. Now, there's probably a million different reasons, but who knows? Lefty's one of those guys that if he gets motivated and he's playing around with a swing change, new coach, so maybe that clicked something clicked for him and he's motivated. You never know.
Guys to stay away from.
Guys I don't like. This one's going to shock people. Tough to stay away from him, especially with his length on the South course. Dustin Johnson's record here is not very good. I think he's got one top 10 in 10 or 11 trips now, so you never know with his length. He could show up, but, there's obvious places for him if you're playing games, fantasy games, or one-and-done league or something, where I like him much more than this week. Other guys I don't really like, Billy Horschel hasn't played well, switched to new clubs, isn't the best player to start with. Now you put him on these greens. Just not sure about him until he shows me he can put a couple of good starts together. I'd avoid him. Same with Justin Rose. Obviously, he's a great player, probably a top 10 player in the world. I think he's having a good year, but first start of the year after extended break, I think he's been off for almost 8 weeks. You just never know what to expect from a guy like that.
You run the fantasy leagues. Who you taking in your one and done?
I went back and forth because it's a long season. The main one that I'm in starts back in the fall at the Fries, so we've already picked 10 guys, 11 guys, and we got to get to the playoffs. But there's just certain guys that like certain courses, so I'm going with the guy at the top of my ranks this week. I'm going with Sneds.
Gotcha. Well, now we'll take a look at the big picture for the rest of the year. Coming off almost a historic year last year is Jordan Spieth. He had a pretty good showing last week in Dubai. Give me your thoughts on how he's going to follow last year up.
Last year was one for the books. Almost Tiger-ish, dare I say. Not to that level, but close. I think he's going to have a good year. Obviously, it's tough to follow something like that up, but his short game is just so good. His putting is just so good that even when he has a bad ball striking week, sort of like Tiger used to, he can still contend with those short clubs. So I think he's going to have a good year. The concerning thing for me with him is that he's already on record earlier this week. I think he is in Singapore this week for the Singapore Open, that he's already physically and mentally exhausted. So that's a little bit worrisome. I think you'll start to see him take more of a Tiger approach in the coming years and cut his schedule down a bit, because I think it's already taken a toll on him. But great year. I think he'll win 3 or 4 times, maybe not the 2 majors. I actually don't think he'll get a major this year just because of the venues, but his best shot would be at Augusta, obviously. But I still think he'll win 3 or 4 times.
I'm a Spieth fan, but that comment annoyed me, that he's tired. I remember when I was 22 years old, when we were 22 years old, we were staying up till 3, 4 in the morning, hinging our hopes on Pacific Long Beach State and getting up at 7 a.m. to go to class. And he's worried about flying around in his private plane, and I'm sure he's got enough rooms in his house that he could take a little rest.
Yeah, it's, I know it's a lot of travel, but it's not like he's huffing around in coach, waiting for his bags on the carousel at 3 in the morning. So, not too much sympathy for me. And it's not like he's playing 52 weeks out of the year. He'll take some extended breaks.
So when will we see him again on U.S. soil, do you expect?
So he'll play Singapore this week for a nice fat cash grab. I think you'll see him take next week off, which is the Waste Management in Phoenix. And then I think you'll see him come back for the Pebble event in 2 weeks. And then he'll go down to the Northern Trust of Riviera and Valspar in Tampa at Copperhead. I think will be his next 3 events.
We talked about his historic year, or almost historic year, comparing it to things that Tiger did. So let's get to Tiger. If I set the over-under at 10 events that he plays in, you would tell me?
I would say definitely take the under.
My other question to you, more likely this year, Tiger wins or Tiger does not play an event at all?
I think it's pretty easy, actually. I think he doesn't play at all.
But you would assume that he probably plays the Masters?
I don't know. I was in the camp where that's where I thought he would come back, but from everything I'm reading, he's barely hitting balls still. And he's still rehabbing, so I don't think that is probable anymore.
If he does not play the Masters, what would be the next tournament that would be likely for him to... Would it be the Memorial?
I think if he misses the Masters.
Oh, the Players and then the Memorial, correct?
Yeah, which I don't think he'll want to come back on either of those courses.
Then
maybe Congressional for the Quicken Loans, but, after not playing for a year, that course isn't going to be very friendly. So
he's probably not.
If he misses the Masters, I actually think he probably sits out the rest of the year.
Interesting.
I think that's.
How about?
I don't think there's a ton of courses that set up great for him if he hasn't been playing.
Is Bay Hill falls before the Masters, correct?
Yes, that's in March, so I doubt you'll see him there either.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I don't see him playing this year. I see him, given the whole. If he doesn't come back for Augusta, I think you see him sit out, and I think you see him start sometime in the fall, maybe with a couple of the fall series events, and then his challenge in the Bahamas. And I think you see him maybe play 10 events a year from here on out. The majors, Bay Hill, Memorial, his tournament, and 1 or 2 others.
What happens come September, October for the Ryder Cup? Is he an assistant coach?
Yes, he will. He's a vice captain. I think he's already named. So I think you can see, depending on what the team makeup is, I think you might see him in the more coaching friendly role than people are used to. Depending on who makes the team, I think if the team is filled with young guys like Koepka, Finau, Justin Thomas, I think you'll see him take to those guys pretty easily.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see him in that role. I find it always interesting to see him or a Jordan type in one of those management roles. I almost feel it's tough for some of those guys to relate.
It is. I agree. I like his. I would like his wisdom experience with match play, though. Even though it's not great in the Ryder Cup, that's his match play record overall is still dominant. So I think he could teach those guys, situational match play stuff that is
Agree.
pretty valuable.
Well, the guy who's been compared most to him in the past couple of years is Rory McIlroy. Your thoughts on his upcoming season?
I'm high on Rory this year. I think he is going to come back focused and maybe a little ticked off that ankle injury last year kind of let Jordan Spieth take the spotlight away from him. He looked pretty good last week. The putter let him down a couple times in Dubai, but he looked really good with the long clubs. And I think you'll see him win Player of the Year this year. That's my pick. Is Rory. 4 or 5 wins. I think he gets a major. And I think there's a pretty strong track record with him the last 4 or 5 years at about 10 events that he always plays well in. So I think he's got a chance to win a bunch. The Masters, the Players, he has a really good record at, and he hasn't won yet. Wells Fargo, he's dominated at Quill Hollow before. Oakmont, I think, sets up well for him. The British Open depends on weather. We've seen him dominate the British Open when it's nice. So if the weather cooperates, he could win that again. Bridgestone, he's won before. The PGA, Baltusrol. It's a Tillinghast, but some of the par 5s, you need some length to reach into. Obviously, he has that. Spades. And then the playoff events, he usually does pretty well in, and one of them is going to be at Bethpage, which should suit his game perfectly as well. So, big year, I think, for him.
More likely to win multiple majors this year, him or Jordan Spieth?
Tough one. I'm going to go with Rory, actually.
Okay.
I think it's hard to win multiple majors back-to-back years. Tiger was just, him and Jack are just in a different world when it comes to that.
Sticking with the players, I'll throw out a couple names. You give me a sentence or two on your expectations for this year for them.
Okay.
Phil Mickelson.
He's a golf whack-a-mole. If you remember that game in Chuck E. Cheese. I think he's going to turn 46 in June. The Ryder Cup year. He's got to be on that team or want to be on that team. So I think you see Phil interested this year.
Quick question. The one that's eluded him, obviously, is the U.S. Open. It would appear to me that Oakmont does not set up particularly great for him.
Here's the thing. If he can have one of those weeks where he hits whatever he's going to hit off the tee just somewhat decently, and whether it's a Frankenwood or a driver, whatever he's going to do, and he puts it in play, you got to be able to scramble from the rough around Oakmont, and he's obviously still got that. So I wouldn't count him out yet.
That's the problem with him. You don't know if he's going to have a Frankenwood, 2 drivers, no driver.
Right. Yeah, it looked like he hit driver pretty well last week on a couple of courses that aren't the new courses that they played last week that aren't very forgiving off the tee. So who knows? Maybe this new swing he figures something out. But the rough at Oakmont is going to be historic, I think, this year. After not seeing it at Chambers Bay last year, I think they have that thing set up like a monster.
So our friend the Bear will be happy there may be a broken wrist or two.
Yeah, I think you'll see broken wrists everywhere. I wouldn't be shocked to see some of us in our little Harry Saxon crew be in attendance for that.
It's a little far out. We don't know how the course is going to be set up, but I agree that they probably will grow the rough in. Could we see a score in the plus numbers win?
I think we will, actually. Just knowing a little bit about Oakmont, I know for the membership they have it brutally hard every day, so I can't imagine that place letting Mike Davis walk in there and set it up like a Mickey Mouse pitch and putt. So I think over par 1 last time, if I'm not mistaken, I think Cabrera and Tiger were both a couple over, and I think you'll see the same thing. I think you'll see 2 or 3 over win. Unless somebody, I'll caveat, unless somebody is just stupid silly with the driver, like Dustin or Rory, when they get in those grooves and they're just hitting at 340 down the middle, then maybe even par 1 under wins.
Agree. Next name, Jason Day.
Boy, he was hottest player in the world the second half last year, but I have written down inconsistent 2016 and weird injuries. And I wrote this down last night, and I'm already proven correct. He withdrew from the Pro-Am today at Torrey Pines with the flu. So the list with him is long, always something with him. So I don't think he'll have as good of a year this year. He would be one of my stock down guys.
He did a great job avoiding an injury a couple weeks back when he was in the front row at the Cavs game, throwing his wife in front of LeBron.
Yeah, he let his wife get blasted, so that's all you need to know about him.
Well, when you put the bread on the table, I guess that's what you have to do.
Yep. Can't hurt the moneymaker.
Ricky Fowler.
Big win for him last week in Dubai. I have always, anyone that knows me has been an anti-Ricky Fowler guy. I like him. I like how he pushes the style barrier. I like that when he is in contention, he has been able to close recently. Who knows? Maybe he's just coming into his own and he's going to start winning more. But I would like to see him win 2 or 3 times next year and kind of get in contention at the majors and maybe win one. But I don't think he'll win a major like everyone thinks.
Do you think he won last week because he got in a groove, or was it those high tops?
I don't know. I watched the replay the other day. He hit the ball well, but I think the guys around him kind of just floated away, and it made it easy on him.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I can't take anything away from him because he won the Players by hitting great shot after great shot. So maybe he'll prove me wrong and win a major this year. But all that big four talk, him belonging, I don't see it. The guy still doesn't have as many tour wins as our buddy Mark Wilson. So.
Quick side question. If we're in Ocean City, Maryland this year at the Saxton Cup, and Coach Miller asks if he could break 5.040 in the middle of a fairway, and he pulls out the high top golf shoes, which side do you bet on?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think you might see. I think the bet should be if there is a high top appearance this year at the Saxton, because I actually think the yes is minus 140 at this point.
Well, you better find another guy, because I will not play in a group with somebody wearing high tops.
It could be Miller that goes back to basketball shoes and their high tops. It could be Davey Trump that buys high top Pumas.
That's probably the likely candidate.
He's the early favorite, but you never know. Could be Tundra Dan. You never know what he's thinking after the long hibernation.
Well, he probably needed them to shovel out the whole winter, so I can understand that.
True.
Dustin Johnson.
The guy always wins. His game never changes. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I think he'll win twice. I think he'll contend in 2 majors. I think he'll contend at Oakmont, and I think he'll contend at Baltusrol. I'm not going out on a limb yet and say he's going to win Baltusrol, but I think he'll be right there.
Gun to your head, does he win a major this year?
Gun to my head, I think he wins the PGA.
Bubba Watson.
Bubba being Bubba. I'll just say that. He'll probably win once. He's got a chance to win the Masters for a 3rd time, which is pretty incredible. And
right.
If you follow his track record there, he usually does it every other year, so this would be the year. Other than that, though, I don't like his chances at any of the other majors.
Henrik Stenson.
Turning 40, best ball striker in the world. Not sure his short game is good enough to win a major, but if he gets it going on the greens, he could win the U.S. Open, the British Open, the PGA. He could win any one of those. I don't think he can win at Augusta, though.
Sergio Garcia.
Content and happy not winning.
Will he ever win a major?
I'll say no.
Because
I think he will be one of those guys that retires early and is happy just doing something different.
I can see that as well. Zach Johnson.
Club switch. He'll contend or win at either Colonial or John Deere. But I think he'll have a little bit of a down year compared to what he had last year.
Justin Rose.
I think Justin Rose will have a really good year. I think he is one of the front runners at Oakmont. The way he drives the ball, he might be the best driver of the ball in the world. With him, always putting though. Patrick Reed. I think Patrick Reed will take that next step. We'll get multiple wins again, like he did 2 years ago. His main focus will be that Ryder Cup team, though. I think he'll be all in and trying to make that team and not leave it up to a pick.
Will he contend for any major this year?
I don't think so, actually. I'm not sure. I don't think Augusta fits his game all that well. He has a great short game, but he just hasn't contended yet. And I think you have to put yourself there a few times before you really are in that serious contention. I could see him maybe making some noise if the weather is okay, or the weather is not okay at the British. I like his low draw ball flight, so maybe something like that, but I don't see him really contending this year.
And lastly, Hideki Matsuyama.
The sleeper to win a major. Guy hits it almost better than anybody, minus Henrik Stenson and maybe Justin Rose. That putter, though, just if he can make a couple more putts, I think he could win, honestly, at any major venue this year.
Give me a guy who's been on tour a couple of years that's going to take that next step out of that young crop. Maybe not a major, but...
one guy, a couple of years. So he's only been on for 1 year, but I think you'll see Brooks Koepka. He got his first win last year. I think you'll see him take that next step and really, you'll see his name a lot more on the leaderboards and maybe win 2 or 3 times.
How about a rookie or maybe a guy who's been on tour a year that will make some noise at multiple events this year?
Justin Thomas. He also is in his second year. He already won this year at CIMB in Malaysia. I think you'll see him on a ton of leaderboards.
And how about a name that people are used to seeing on the leaderboards that's going to struggle this year?
I think that name for me is Billy Horschel. I know he's still, if you don't play a ton of golf, maybe you don't know him, but if you are following golf at all, you know who he is at least. He won the FedEx Cup 2 years ago. I just don't like where he's at. I don't know if he got content after winning all that money or what, but he rarely contends, and when he does, it seems like he gets hot for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he goes away again. So I'd say Billy Horschel.
You mentioned some equipment changes with Zach Johnson. Give me some other guys that made some equipment changes to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Zach, to the new PXG company. Their clubs are not really made for the everyday golfer. They're super expensive, so they're trying to make a splash with that upper-end market, kind of handmade market. Him, Billy Horschel, Chris Kirk, and a couple other no-namers. Not no-namers, but lesser-known guys like James Hahn. They all made the switch to PXG. 2 young guys went to Nike. Pretty good gets, I think, for Nike. They fit the brand. Brooks Koepka, Tony Finau, both really good young players that hit the ball a ton. And nothing official, kind of just rumors at this point, but Dustin Johnson, his club deal is coming to an end. Obviously, he would be a huge gift for anybody. And the rumor is that Nike is making a big swing at him. So watch for that after this year concludes.
Give me a couple guys from both America and Europe that will make a push for the Ryder Cup that people may not be as familiar with.
I think this is going to be the Ryder Cup, actually, now that you're bringing this up, that we will start to see both teams changing of the guard a little bit. I think for Europe, the stalwarts that have been there for years, Donald, Bjorn, Westwood, Laurie, some of those guys, it's going to be hard for them to make it. their current form and where they're at in the rankings. I think you'll see the young guys. Matthew Fitzpatrick, he's 22. A young English kid, he's won a couple times already. Really good player, really good short game. Thomas Peters went to the University of Illinois. He won a couple weeks ago. He destroys the ball. He's a tall bomber, good putter. Andy Sullivan is another guy that's won 3 or 4 times now on the European Tour. I think you'll see him make the team. So it will be interesting to see how that team chemistry, if they can hold what they've had going for the last 10 years, they can keep that together, or if these new young kids will mess that up. As far as the USA, the older guys, Phil, Tiger, Furyk, Stricker. Maybe Phil makes the team, maybe he doesn't, but it looks like all 4 of those guys are going to miss. Furyk is the wild card if he comes back from that wrist injury. Some of the young guys, there's a ton of them. Justin Thomas, Brooks Koepka, we've already hit on them. I think they will both make the team. Guys like Tony Finau, Patrick Rogers, Daniel Berger, Russell Henley, Harris English. The American list is deep and long, and there's going to be players that get left out. So I think it's a good thing for the Americans that they're going to get new blood. I'm not sure it's a good thing for Europe, though.
Moving a little bit away from individual guys. Actually, before we do that, tell us a little bit about Mini Ben Hogan, Bryson DeChambeau.
There is a really good article that was posted today. I think it's on SI. Let me double check that. It's by Alan Shipnuck for SI. It's a 5-pager on who Bryson DeChambeau is, why he is the way he is, and where he came from. Great read. It talks a little bit about, it goes pretty in depth actually, about how he decided to make his clubs or get his clubs made the way they are. Essentially, to sum it up, all of his irons are the same length. They're about the length of a 7-iron. He played with the weights, and he got them all the same weight and feel. And basically the reason behind it is he wanted all of his swings to be on the same swing plane and be exactly the same. When he was a kid, I think he was 12 or 13 or 14, he did not like that his 4-iron swing was different than his pitching wedge swing. So that's kind of why he did what he did. And he'll be in the Masters because of his USAM win, and I think you'll see him turn pro after that, and I would expect him to be really good right away.
His strengths of his game.
He set out when he was little. There's no Tiger comments that he wanted to win X tournaments and Y tournaments. He only said he wanted to be the best ball striker that ever lived. So that is what he aims to be. He's really good at it. So that is his strength, is hitting the golf ball. And his putting it comes and goes, but I would not be shocked after reading this article if you see him, once he's on tour, if you see him bring back the side saddle style of putting. I'm being serious. Apparently the only reason he doesn't do it right now is that he doesn't want people talking about his weird, quirky clubs and his putting style, so he's trying to hold off until he makes the tour, I guess.
Has he done it in the past at events?
He has, yes. He did it in the, 2013 USAM in Pub Links and was pretty successful with it.
Interesting. I did not know that about him.
Yeah, so you might see that after he locks up his tour card. If he does, I think you'll see him start playing around with that because he says he feels more comfortable like that.
Moving away a little bit from the players, any new events this year or changes to the tour that we should look for?
No new events, really. The biggest difference is the schedule this year with the Olympics right in the middle of the tour schedule. Essentially, you'll see the big-name guys, I think, build their schedules around those summer events. I think the schedule goes the British Open, the Canadian, and then the PGA is just 2 weeks after the British Open, which is a pretty big change. And then the Olympics are 2 weeks after that. So the best of the best are going to have to plan their years around that kind of 4-week stretch there.
I could be wrong, but I think a WGC falls in there as well.
I think it's the week after the Olympics. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be a busy time for the PGA and exciting time for viewers.
Yeah, and the Olympics is interesting. I'm not really sure what to think of it. You'll have a bunch of no-name guys that most people haven't heard of that are playing in the Olympics over a lot of guys that you have heard of just because they're from another country. So I think the course will show really well on TV. And just from the comments that you hear guys talking about, it sounds like they're pretty excited to play for something other than a major, gold medal, something that you don't really get a chance to often to play for. So,
will they have gold medals for both individual and country?
I think so, yes.
And is each country doing to send their guys differently?
I think everyone is doing a world ranking system.
Okay.
Points thing. So I think it's off of that for everybody.
And do you have any idea how the format will be? Is it going to be 4 rounds?
I do not have the format yet. I'm not sure if it's been released or not.
Okay. To the major courses, we've touched on, obviously, it's in Masters at Augusta, Oakmont for the U.S., Baltusrol for the PGA. The British this year is?
It is at Royal Troon. The last time you saw that was in 2004 when our boy Toddy Hamilton won.
Oh.
Just to give you an appetizer there, that will probably be the worst major if someone like that's going to win.
I'm sure I probably could have got Todd Hamilton to come on this podcast today. He can't be doing anything better.
Yeah, I think we could have had him pretty easily, especially over Davy Trump.
Perhaps in our British Open preview, I'll reach out to him.
I mean, he's going to know the course better than I do, so I think that's a good idea.
Give us a couple sentences on each major course and what type, you don't have to give names of players, but what type of player it sets up for.
Everyone knows Augusta. Augusta does a really good job of identifying the player that's playing the best. You don't have to be one type of player. Bubba and Jordan Spieth are pretty opposite in players, so I think that week you really just have to putt well. I think that's the key to Augusta and knowing the course or have seen it a couple times because first timers just never win there. So pretty open field, I think, for that one. Oakmont. Last time I looked at the leaderboard, last time it was played there, Angel Cabrera won. And back in those days, he was one of the bigger hitters. He beat out Tiger, who was, a top 5 big hitter back then. So thick rough will be one of the longest courses they play. I think they'll have a par 3 set up around 290. So I think a big hitter is going to win Oakmont. I'm just not sure how the smaller hitters can sustain hitting it out of the rough so many times that week. Troon, don't know much about Troon. I try to do a little research. It's not a long course. Obviously, there's a lot of bunkering. And obviously, just like every other open venue, it will be weather dependent. So bad weather, you see grimy, ratty type players at the top of the leaderboard. G-Max, stuff like, European guys that are used to playing in it. If the weather is bad, though, there is one name that I do like, and that's, I think Ricky Fowler, if the weather is bad, is a good bet to win a British Open eventually. This is a good year for him, I think, if the weather is bad.
I agree. Those high tops are good for trudging along in the mud.
There you go. Good point. Baltusrol, it's a par 70 Tillinghast, so the greens are where the defense is. They do have a couple of really long holes, though, so I think for the members it plays as a 72, but for majors they knock it down to a 70 just to get scores up a little bit. The leaderboard last time was filled with the best in the world at the time. Phil, Elkington, Bjorn, Davis Love, Vijay Singh were all at the top of the board. So I think you'll see a mix of players at that one too that can win, short and long. And I think you'll see a big name win the PGA, be it Spieth or DJ or Jason Day or whoever. I think a big name will win there. And my two early favorites for Baltusrol would be DJ, and I really like Hideki Matsuyama if he's healthy for that one.
Anchoring was the big topic the past couple of years with the long putters. That has gone into effect now. What do you think the next hot debate's going to be? In your eyes, what should it be?
I think there will be two, and I think there'll be different levels. One is the shorts, whether pros should be allowed to wear shorts. I think the European Tour has moved to a new rule I saw last week where players can wear shorts for practice rounds up until Wednesday. So you saw guys last week in shorts, and some of them really liked it. It's not that serious of a rule. Obviously, it doesn't affect the population. Only affects the pros. But I think you'll see some type of movement, maybe led by the younger guys, to get shorts back on tour full time. Which I don't see why not. I don't really think they need to be out there in the middle of August in pants. So the bigger issue, I think, will come up. Maybe not this year, but into this year, next year. I think they got to roll back the golf ball a little bit. Distances are just out of control at this point. You can't make golf courses any longer, and I think the driver technology has been tapped out the last 5 or 6 years. I think it's the golf ball that just keeps advancing. I wouldn't be shocked to see a rule in the coming years where every pro has to play some type of similar golf ball. You'll hear a lot of bitching and crying about it, but I think that's where we're headed. And I know Jack Nicklaus has been pretty outspoken about that needing to happen. So
will that affect the likes of a Jack Ham?
No, Jack Ham, if you've ever seen him hit a golf ball, it doesn't matter what kind of ball he hits. It goes over and around mountains.
Anything else you want to touch on before we get to the prediction segment?
Let me go through my notes here. I skipped over the new courses. There's only one really that is of interest, and that is the Barclays will be back at Bethpage Black. So that will be a good watch on TV.
Golfers should probably beware on the Long Island Expressway going in.
Yeah. So it's don't drive too slow. You might get almost killed by a rear ender. That's not the most fun drive in the world.
All right. We won't hold you to them. When we do the prediction show, you can give us the official predictions. But your Masters winner, as we sit here in February or January.
Man, I went back and forth on a couple of these, but I like Rory to win the Masters. I think he gets the career Grand Slam. He was in position to win 4 or 5 years ago and collapsed. Found some cabins on number 10 that I didn't know existed, but he's been trending there ever since. I know me and Tundra had some bets last year, and we backed him for a top 10, I think, and he delivered there. I think he figures it out this year.
Was that a cabin or was that the Steelers bar?
It might have been the Steelers bar.
Your U.S. Open winner.
The U.S. Open, I think, it's a bomber that's going to win. I have 2 names written down. I have DJ and I have Justin Rose. I think both of them will fare well there. Oakmont screens are notoriously tough, so DJ scares me. But I'm going to take DJ here just because of his length. I think if he has an on week with the driver, he'll be able to hit some at least mid-irons into some of the greens where other guys are hitting hybrids into. So I'll say DJ finally knocks one off.
Of all the tournaments, this is probably the hardest because you got the luck of the draw with when you go out, and it's just a crapshoot with the weather. But give me something on the British.
Yeah, I wrote a couple words down. The weather's just impossible to predict. I said earlier that I didn't think Fowler would win a major. If the weather is bad, I think he has a good shot at this one. But not knowing how the weather's going to be, I'd put down ratty European. So take your pick, whether it's Steven Gallagher or Tommy Bjorn finally breaks through. I don't know, but I think that one has a good chance to be a random player.
The PGA Championship.
I have a couple of names written down for that. I like DJ and Spieth and Justin Rose and Matsuyama. I'm going to go with Matsuyama. I'll go out on a limb and pick a sleeper for that one.
The Ryder Cup.
Man, there's so many names that I hope make the team. I think they'll do the right thing this time and get some young guys on the team. And I think it's going to fall into place where some of the European stalwarts are just now playing good enough to make the team. And I worry about their chemistry with the new guys. They'll be really good at the top with Rory and Stenson and Rose and those guys. But I'm going to go USA. Maybe I'm a homer. But I think the Hazeltine venue will really benefit the Americans with their length if they get those young guys on the team.
And the big one, the Harry Saxton.
New teams at the Harry Saxton this year, almost like the Ryder Cup. New blood, new pairings. As a commissioner, I don't like to set the lines or anything. I think we're going to have a much closer event this year. I don't know what we're calling it, north-south or whatever. I don't know what side Davy Trump wants to be on, but I don't think anyone's favored, really.
That's nice of you to be the commissioner and not try to fix it like Stern did in the '85 draft.
No, I'm trying to stay away from a fixing scandal. I want to be locked into my commissionership for a long time to come. So I think both teams right now are even money. I think the trades that were made, basically Davy Trump and the Bear, were traded for the Mechanic and Billions Buzzes. I think those will make it much more interesting.
And give me 3 bold predictions for the PGA Tour this year.
3 bold predictions. All right. I think you'll see Spieth take a little step back by not winning a major. Him and Rory will flip-flop places. I think that'll be the first bold one. I think you'll see DJ win the major finally and get that monkey off his back. I don't know how that changes the conversation or if that opens the floodgates. My guess is it will. I think you could see by the end of his career, if he finally gets one this year, he's still very young. I think you could see him get to that 5 or 6 major mark. And I think the U.S. winning the Ryder Cup is a pretty bold statement. I think you'll see 6 or 7 guys under the age of 28 on that team. And I think that'll loosen them up a little bit and free them up. No ghosts around to haunt the team this time.
If DJ does get off the schneid and win a major, who becomes the best player in the world who doesn't have one?
Oh, wow, good question.
Sergio's always a name that comes up, but somebody other than Sergio.
Yeah, the first name that would come off my tongue would be Henrik Stenson.
Good call there.
I think DJ has a pretty good lead on that right now. But for me, it would be Stenson probably.
Yeah, that's a good call.
The guy's just been so good the last 5 or 6 years that he hits the ball so well. He should have a major by now, but don't know if he'll get one.
Anything else you want to add to the preview?
Don't think so. I've gone over my notes pretty good. The only thing I really left out, I know I said Billy Horschel, biggest disappointment of the year. I think I would put Jimmy Walker as a potential candidate up there as well. I forgot to mention anything about him. He typically wins already, and he hasn't, so he's got to be a little bit worried about not winning and being left off the Ryder Cup team. But other than that, I think we covered everything. Now I wish it was 65 and sunny outside.
I agree. I feel like going to hit balls right now myself.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're doing living in these locations, but...
Well, next week we'll be back with the Super Bowl preview, and the following week we'll have NBA midseason report.
I like it.
Great job by you on the preview.
I appreciate it, buddy, and thanks for giving me the platform, me and Golf Mana.
Absolutely. Deuce's work, again, could be found on www.golfmania.com. He wrote the preview this week, so check it out.
That would be great. Everyone go check that out. Get us some clicks.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.
I appreciate it, man. Good job by you.
All right, see ya.